Carnegie Institute first, followed by the Rockefeller Foundation. They funded it. Do you realize that in America, over 16,000 little boys and little girls were forcibly, legally sterilized against their will? You know what state had the most sterilizations? California. The whole idea behind eugenics was to create a pure race. However, after World War II, they changed the name. It was no longer eugenics. What's it called today? Huh? No. Genetics.
Oh, that's right.
It's called genetics. You can go on Ancestry.com and have your blood tested to see your genetic makeup. Now, what would happen if there was a genetic database with all the people and they decided, you know what, you're inferior, you're superior, we're going to keep you, we're going to get rid of you. Medical decisions could be made on that. Adultery. I mean, there are TV series on wife swapping. There's an entire celebrity wife swap. Celebrity wife swap. You're not like your wife, grass is greener on the other side. Right, honey? 48 years we've been together. Don't watch that show. Don't ever watch that show. Stick with Duck Dynasty.
Can't go wrong there.
And things will go fine. You know, it's sad. You know, you see movies out, and it just horrifies me. Young guys going out drinking, catting around. The respect for women is gone.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And you know, I open doors for women. I say, ma'am, I don't care what age they are. It could be 12 years old. Yes, ma'am, no, ma'am. And I treat a woman, I put them on a pedestal. My mother taught me this. Put them on a pedestal. Now, if they fall off the pedestal, that's their problem. But as long as they stand up there, you worship them. Right? That's what I believe. That's how I write. And there is a war against women. But it's not from who you think. Thou shalt not steal. S in socialism stands for stealing. I quote Vladimir Putin because you know what? It's kind of weird, but Vladimir Putin is taking the moral high ground on all the issues. You know, he's anti-homosexual. You know, he is very nationalistic. He believes in the Russian way of life. He wants to preserve the Russian state. He believes in Russian sovereignty. And he even said, Obama and the Democrats are idiots. I mean, I couldn't have said it better. You know, it's kind of crazy, but it's true. The S in socialism does stand for stealing.
When did he say that?
Legalize. I don't have the citation, but I'll get it. If you got here, I'll give you my card, and I'll send you the citation. But anyway, the whole point is, legalized stealing is called what? The 16th Amendment to the Constitution of the United States of America. It's called the 16th Amendment. It taxes productivity. Taxes productivity. There's a group called Fair Tax. The good group, for Fair Tax. What's the fair tax? It's a sales tax. What do we have in Florida? A sales tax. We have no income tax. We're fired. That's great. Why? Because you are taxing not productivity, you're taxing consumption. Everybody pays. If you're here legally, illegally, you're passing through, you're here on vacation, everybody pays for our schools, our roads, everything. Makes sense, right? Yeah. That's not stealing. I make the decision on buying something, and I'm willing to pay the price. The income tax is the greatest national organized theft ever. Thou shalt not bear false witness. Now, I put up several But I had to put in some, you know, of our guys here.
Shouldn't be there. He shouldn't be there.
You know, it's amazing how
He came in.
people say one thing and totally do another. They bear false witness to their constituents, to the people who elect. I mean, Marco's a friend. I helped get him elected. I heard him say dozens of times in dozens of different forums, nope, amnesty, nope, secure the border. Then he goes up there, somebody gets him in the Senate cloakroom,
Yeah.
you know, feeds him whatever, you know, the Kool-Aid. Oh, we're going to make you the face of amnesty. You know, that worked out. He's been recovering for that ever since. He's done some good stuff, though. He just came out with something about global warming is a big hoax. That's pretty cool. Affordable Care Act, of course, IRS. You know, you have a legal right not to self-incriminate. You don't have a legal right to lie. And then, of course, Benghazi, outright lie.
He was on television again, lying again.
Thou shalt not covet. Has anybody ever heard of this concept of income equality?
Yes.
Okay. That is coveting. I covet someone else's wealth. Who is saying it?
Obama.
And Pope Francis.
That's right. That's right.
Pope Francis.
He did.
I'm a Roman Catholic. I am sickened. The church doctrine, Pope Leo XIII in the 1880s wrote a complete dissertation on how socialism was evil. It was the devil incarnate. And here we have Pope Francis saying we need to redistribute it. Well, he is asking every Catholic to sin, in my mind. I wrote an article about that. My Catholic brethren didn't like it, but you know what? You got to tell the truth.
Amen. Amen.
Amen. You will know he by his actions, by the fruits of by the fruits that he. Yep. By the way, a good friend of mine, Dr. Larry Reed, who the Foundation for Economic Freedom is one of the contributors. They have great articles, by the way. Very. I mean, these are smart young people. I have a hard time. I get a brain freeze when I read some of their stuff because they're so eloquent. He said, men who are equal are not free. Men who are free are not equal. That is so very true. This is a very important issue here. If you don't believe your government and your media routinely lie to you, then you deserve the police state dictatorship you're going to get. I don't think I could have said it any better than that. That's why we have to have a media that, and thank God for the internet. Thank God for the internet. Because the internet, most of the big stories have been broken by the internet. Okay, they've been broken by my writers. The story about the young man who was just freed, who was actually a deserter. Nobody would have said anything about that.
Well, of course he would.
Okay, until the blogosphere picked it up and he said, "Wait a minute, do you know who this guy is? Don't you remember what the New York Times wrote? Don't you remember what he said? Don't you remember why he left his post?" In the face of the enemy, he left his post. And he went out to the village, and when the troops went out there from the 1st to the 501st and said, "Have you seen this soldier?" Yes, he was just through here, and he was asking where to find the Taliban. Why would a soldier want to? I mean, maybe he would ask, how can I get to Miami Beach? How do I get out of here and get to Canada? But where's the Taliban? What's the nearest Taliban outpost? I'm going to go there. Say hi. Make myself available. Show them how to make a few bombs. Tell them a little bit about our tactics. Make a couple of videos. And the president stands up there. Oh, the father, whose first words out of his mouth are what? An Islamic phrase.
Yeah. Yeah.
The first words out of his mouth are an Islamic, God is great. Declaring that the White House, the Rose Garden, belongs to Islam.
Correct, correct. And the Muslim flag is going to be flying over the
Well,
White
he
House.
didn't say that, but
what
that's
he
the
indicated.
objective.
Yeah, exactly.
That's the objective. All right.
I'm so furious.
I believe that biblical faith and freedom flow from the same wellspring. I want to thank you. Any questions before I know it's been a long day for you all? Any questions for me? No, God, I must have covered everything. Yes, Barbara?
No, talking about this young deserter, defector, collaborator, traitor, whatever you want to.
Well, that's to be determined. We know he's a deserter. We know that he was, he was never reported supposedly by the DOD as a POW.
Right.
So there's a question on what his status truly is.
I posed the question today on Facebook and on Twitter. When are the mothers and fathers of the 6 servicemen that we know were killed, searching for him, going to get their moment in the Rose Garden?
Yeah, right. They won't. They will not.
How do you see this playing out, particularly in the media? Isn't the media's hand kind of being forced on this one because?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, the media has been, it's like, Gary Bernstein said Friday night, the media suddenly had an epiphany, and oh yes, there's something wrong with the VA, when the Concerned Veterans for America a year ago called for the resignation of Secretary Shinseki. A year ago! They've been pounding the pavement saying it's wrong, look at all this, look at this, look at this, look at this. Suddenly the media, oh yes, we just discovered that the VA is killing people. What? Oh yes, we got 100 bodies sitting here, haven't been buried for a year and a half. What?
That was just in Los Angeles.
And that's just in Los Angeles. We don't know what's going on. I mean, we know that Governor Scott tried to send in people to literally look at the records in his own state for his own veterans. He's a veteran. His son serves in the military. He's a captain in the 82nd. And all he wants to do is find out what are you guys doing with my veteran? They threw his people off campus. They threw his people off campus. Yes, they told him to get out of town. God, it's a federal facility. State has no jurisdiction. There's a moral jurisdiction, ladies and gentlemen. You won't do your job, I'll do it for you. He knows everything there is to know about a hospital. What did he run? HCA. By the way, Mike Bennett and I, matter of fact, we had a conversation. Mike Bennett and I, years ago, when Catherine Harris was first elected, there was a roundtable of veterans. One of the first things she did was a veteran roundtable, which was fantastic. And we went around the table, and she said, well, she asked everybody, what was your top priority? I said, well, I think we need to give every veteran a card with their benefits, and they can take that card anywhere they want and get medical care.
Yes.
If they want to take it to a VA hospital, they can take it to a VA hospital. If they want to take it to a private hospital, they can take it to a private hospital. If they want to take it to their doctor, swipe the card. Whatever's covered is covered. Whatever's not covered is they have to pay for insurance. They pay out of their pocket. The other veterans organizations looked at me like I was an idiot. The VA is the perfect single-payer system.
That's right. That's exactly
It is the ultimate thing. I asked a VA doctor here in Sarasota, working at the clinic, I said to him, what's it like working for the VA? As a doctor, what's it like? Ugh. He said, it's like working for the post office. I deliver medicine. I don't practice it. Now that's scary.
That's not just in the
Now,
that's everywhere. That's everywhere.
that's everywhere. I've had veterans go in for psychological, because they have PTSD, and they're treated like little children. They've been through combat. They've seen their friends die. They serve this nation, they're treated like little kids. I was treated, never mind. That's another issue. This whole issue is going to play itself out. The media doesn't want to play it out. It will be played out. The question is, will the DOD do what it's supposed to do?
No.
Not unless.
That's the key. That's the key. When you have Chuck Hagel stand up and say, you know what, everyone should be able to serve that's capable, including transsexual. Now, do you think that that Secretary of Defense is going to try this young man
Nope, of course not.
for at the minimum, abandoning his post in the face of the enemy? Which, by the way, is definitely a court-martial offense. If I did it, I would have been summarily shot in Vietnam.
Well, look at the pay he's gonna get.
That's another issue.
Well,
That's
look at the
another
man
issue.
that traded
But
for
if he's convicted of a court-martial,
Yeah.
if he goes to trial and if he goes before a military tribunal, and if he's convicted of
Treason.
well, abandoning his post in the face of the enemy, which is different than AWOL. AWOL is like I'm sitting in Fort Hood, Texas, and I decide to leave for a week because my girlfriend, you know, misses me, or my mom misses me, or whatever, or I miss me, you know, or I got some friends that are out at the beach, and I don't come back. That's a company level, at the most battalion level, non-judicial punishment.
Right.
Where were you, Fred? Sure, I went to the beach. You know, $50 a month for 2 months. You're going to have 14 days restriction to the barracks, and take care of that. This is different. This is leaving your post in the middle of a combat zone and going over and actively seeking the enemy. That's an issue. Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, but the much, much greater sin is what Obama did.
Well, that's treason.
Okay, that's treason.
That's treason.
Okay.
And
That
Impeach,
look,
try, convict, and execute.
there is multiple examples. As a matter of fact, there's an article that you guys picked up on about separation of state, separation of powers. You know, there's supposed to be a legislative, a judicial,
Right.
and a executive branch, and they're supposed to be checking one another. That's all BS. That is all BS. It's not happening. It's not going to happen. Why? Because they want to win elections.
That's right.
They want to win elections. Now, they'll be more than happy to go, oh, look,
Right.
but who's been to jail for in the IRS? Who's lost their job?
Nobody.
All right? Who's lost their job in Fast and Furious?
Nobody.
Nobody.
Who's lost their job in Benghazi?
Nobody.
No. Well, Jeb Bush gave Hillary an award. Jeb Bush gave Hillary an award.
Christopher.
So that's what you do, you know. That's how politics at the highest level works. That's not how the people work. They believe in this man.
But why are you so freely sitting there and saying that's just how it works? Why aren't we doing something about it?
That's why you're here.
Because
That's why you have groups like CBA. That's why you have groups like Americans for Prosperity. That's why you have. And look, I'm in a difficult situation here. I live in a state that is the governorship, the governor's mansion, and all the cabinet members are Republican.
yeah, no, I totally get
There's
it.
supermajority Republicans in the House and Senate, and they do stupid things. Common Core.
Yeah.
Stupid. They're not listening. They're not listening. All right? I mean, they do amazingly dumb things. Even Rick Scott, God bless him, he's a wonderful guy. He is being ill-advised on some issues. Totally ill-advised by somebody named Grover Norquist.
But it doesn't take advice.
Grover Norquist is the bane of the Republican Party. He's the one that got George W. Bush, to go to the mosque and say, Islam is a religion of peace. Anybody believe that Islam is a religion of peace? Okay, good. Nobody
Tell them
raised
to
their
read
hand.
the Quran.
No Muslims in the room? All right. And by the way, for the FBI agents and IRS agents that may be hidden in the audience, I'll give you my name and social security number before you leave. Go ahead. Yes, sir.
Just a quick hypothetical question that's been bothering me for a long time. I always bring it up with certain politicians. You and I was a Vietnam vet too, and we saw the transformation of this country. We saw the genesis of the Clinton movement, the progressive movement, and where they are today. Mr. Flanagan, we both came down from New York, and we are bound and determined to get our country back. We're gonna roll up our sleeves and it's do or die. And it will happen because of people like this in the room. But my hypothetical question is, we live in a free society, handed out to us by our forefathers. How does a free society protect itself? Once we get our country back, how do you protect ourselves from a progressive movement of what's happened and still remain free? That's the question.
Well,
You have to have,
The major thing is people do not do, what they should do as citizens. They
This is
ignore
the-
it, what's
when
happening.
somebody uses our own constitution
yeah.
against us, how
Yeah,
do we have
yeah,
some freedom?
yeah.
That is the question,
And become elected.
you know?
and become
How do you
elected.
protect yourself?
Well, what's
That's what
interesting, yeah.
It's a hypothetical.
What you do is you do what the other guy has been so successful at doing. And that is getting into the schools, getting into our colleges and universities, turning children against their parents, turning our children against America. And that's the greater threat. Then, of course, you also have the debt, the national debt. We're going to need a national crisis. I think we've had multiple national crises, but I think the one that there is something called, have anybody ever heard anything called rational irrationality? Rational irrationality. That means that a rational person will adhere to and believe in an irrational belief, so long as that belief does not directly impact them.
Congress.
Right. And what Gary was talking about is a total financial collapse of the United States of America. That will hit every American in their pocketbook.
Well, also,
That's what started the American Revolution. But in the interim, what we have to do is not guns, but ballots. We have to organize. We have to join groups like Concerned Veterans and AFP, and we have to support those politicians that truly are listening, that believe in the Constitution. Yes, ma'am.
well, also you look back through time and history. People, once you win that revolt, once you win whatever you're seeking, you get complacent. They always do. And now it's back because we're having such an economic hit to us. Once the economy starts going, people start going, oh, wait a minute, what's going on here? It's always a fluctuation, just like you're saying with the weather, it's always a fluctuating thing.
Yeah.
I don't think it'll ever stay completely stable. But we have to look at it now, and we have to say, look at how it looks through history. It's just like what happened with the French Revolution. We're in the same situation, where we have all this